Hi, welcome to English and Communications 2. I am Haley Pendergast. I am one of the teachers for this class.
And I'm Courtney Linnemeyer, the other teacher for this class. We're excited for you to learn a little bit about what your students are doing with us this year, and we've enjoyed working with your students over the past few weeks and getting to know them.
Taking a look at our first couple texts that we're going to do, kind of depending on our format, we are hoping to definitely get through American-born Chinese and Mice and Men for that first semester, and hopefully we'll get to Fahrenheit 451 leading into second semester. We always lived in a castle, which we finish out the year. Kind of just looking at what the schedule might be like. We were hoping to definitely get through the first three this year. We also hope that you have the ability to read along with us, or definitely ask your students what they're reading and if they can summarize or just give you some insights on what they're learning through their books. That definitely helps them connect back to their text that they are reading. Our course information, go ahead, Ms. Linnemeyer.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, this is what it's like to be in class with us. We, kind of work off of each other. We wanted to show you our instructor information. We highlighted for you our office hours, so you know when your students can meet with us outside of class to get help. Each of us has an office hours Zoom link that's posted right here, and this information is also posted separately on Google Classroom for your students, both in a Google Classroom post and on the syllabus. And of course, in addition to these office hours outside of the school day, there is a 30-minute resource period in the middle of the day, Tuesday through Friday. And Ms. Pendergast and I are happy to meet with your students during that 30-minute period as well. Also included on here are the Google Classroom webpage and the Zoom Classroom links. And all of that information is attached in Home Access Center. So you can access those links there, and you can also access our syllabus there. If you would like to be a part of our Google Classroom, please send us an email and we will send you an invitation so that you can see all of the assignments that we are working with and their due dates.
So kind of taking a look of our overall arching theme of our semesters in our class is definitely the concept of identity. So we have two questions that we really have our students focus on throughout the novels that they read. The first one is, what shapes an individual's identity? And how does an individual establish a sense of identity within the community? So that's really what they're focusing on with the character development, and how kind of the community that these characters are in have really changed their identity. So the first semester activities that we incorporate with that is their artifact speech. That is something they've been doing for the past couple weeks. So it's been very exciting to see their faces and kind of get a more personal interaction with them. We'll begin reading American-born Chinese very soon. That's our first novel. That is actually a graphic novel that's a little bit different than what they might be used to, or some students are really into graphic novels, so it kind of goes back and forth there. We'll talk about visual literacy skills. So this is kind of how to analyze an image and what really comes out of an image, the deeper meaning, the details. We'll also move into a personal narrative essay where they will kind of identify one of their identities and kind of think about how that plays into their community. We'll then move into Of Mice and Men. And with Of Mice and Men, we do have an argumentative research paper that they will complete as well.
So going back to what Ms. Pendergast was saying about American-born Chinese, since it is a graphic novel, we're working on teaching students how to analyze images, and we're explaining why it's so important to be able to read images is because we're surrounded by images from billboards to television, etc. Social media, obviously, which I'm sure your students are on quite a bit. So with analyzing visual images and text, we've put together 4 different methods for them to work with. We'll be doing a lot of practice with this throughout the unit and giving them feedback on their practice analysis paragraphs, and then that will end with a image analysis test at the end of the unit, which will be one of our larger assessments of learning for the semester. And then we also are having them explore their own identities, as well as the theme of identity. So as Ms. Pendergast mentioned, they're going to be looking at what identities are most impactful on them and selecting one of those to write a narrative essay about. And we're going to work on different narrative writing strategies such as dialogue, imagery, showing instead of telling, and having some mini lessons connected with that. So from there, we will move into more traditional writing with Of Mice and Men, which is an argument writing assignment. We're going to ask students to make a claim about the American dream and whether or not it exists today. Through that unit, we're going to focus on choosing effective evidence. So not just reading the first article that you find, but instead really looking for a piece of evidence that best illustrates your point, and then analyzing that evidence. We also are going to talk about counterclaim, which is something they should have been introduced to during freshman year. And we'll use Scribble, which is a new resource through the library for MLA citation and documenting sources and text marking within sources. And so they will be utilizing multiple sources to support their own argument. And then, so this is actually one of our speaking and research experiences as well. So instead of just having students write one really large presentation at the end of the year, we break up our speaking and research experiences into 5 little mini experiences throughout the year. And then this, in the past, has culminated in a speech in May. We did end up having our students last year go ahead and record a speech via Screencastify to share with us. So I think that's very possible this year. As Ms. Pendergast already said, we had them give an artifact speech, though it didn't have anything digital behind them, so they didn't have to interact with that. They could practice their speaking and delivery skills. And we had what I thought was a cool lesson where Ms. Pendergast's sister, who works for the Big Ten Conference, talked about Zoom etiquette, Zoom presentation etiquette, and what it means to be on the Zoom camera in real life and interact. So that was kind of a neat piece that we could add in with our speaking and research experiences this year.
With all our novels that we are doing, we do have some kind of text marking focuses that we really want our students to incorporate while they're reading. We really focus on the different themes that we are experiencing in each of our books. So they're very different as the settings and the plots are very different. So we will take a look at that when we get to each of those books. We want them to be digging deeper into the meaning of a text and finding and recording evidence. This is definitely something that will correlate with a lot of what Ms. Linnemeyer was saying with our writing essays and participating in discussions. We're still working on the discussions part with this interesting format, so that's something that will be determined as we move through this semester. And then also with that type of evidence in writing that essay, we want to ensure that they are picking the best piece of evidence. So we don't want to necessarily have them pick something right off the bat and think it's okay when it may not necessarily support that thesis that they're working on in their essays. So this is definitely a trick that we're hoping to get the students to really focus on while we're reading those novels. Strategies for success. So things that we encourage students to do is definitely ask questions. If you don't understand something, definitely let us know. That is something that we definitely say every day, especially in this format. We want to ensure that we can reach out to them if they need help. And anytime they do need help, the quicker they ask for help, the better it helps them. So we definitely want them to advocate for themselves. We want to have them be able to complete those assignments, whether they need more time or they're just really struggling with it. We definitely want them to advocate for that. Utilize your resources. We have office hours, we have some time during the day, whether it's our off periods, if they need help with their drafting of their writing or anything that we're doing in class, whether it's visual literacy. We definitely want them to reach out and utilize those opportunities that we have, and also reach out to their peers. They often talk to them more than they talk to us nowadays, so that's something that they can utilize as well, especially if they're absent one day. Reaching out to a peer and say, hey, where should I go for the assignments, is definitely useful. And keeping up with due dates, especially for multi-step projects and essays. Those larger projects, those due dates usually stand. So it's definitely important for them to plan ahead on what to do on those given work days or even just on their own after class is ended. read the feedback that we provide on their writing, so reflect on what you need to improve on and make those changes on future assignments. We love giving feedback. We love for students to utilize that. Sometimes we have students not necessarily take advantage of that, and it kind of reflects on their writing. So we really want students to have that opportunity to get that feedback, that one-on-one support from us. That'll definitely help them in the future. Grade calculations. So you probably have heard some of these popular terms in many of their other classes. We have two: assessment for learning, which is that 20%. So that assessment for learning is format assessments to monitor students' learning to provide ongoing feedback. So basically, those assignments that we're doing in class, whether it's a group activity or discussions or something like that, I shouldn't say discussion, but activities that they're doing in class is something that will fall under that 20% assessment for learning, and a lot of their homework assignments as well. The assessments of learning, which is the 80%, those are that larger chunk of their grade. So whether it's the tests, essays, discussions, or projects, that's the bulk of what they're being graded on. So a lot of times if you see their grade, they completed maybe all their homework or in-class activities, but maybe they're missing an essay, or maybe they didn't do as well on the test, that might show the grade skewed because of the weight of that assessment of learning. So we hope that they are kind of making those patterns, getting that feedback so they can improve that assessment of learning along with completing assessments for learning. Grade codes. So as you guys have probably been seeing on Home Access Center, we have different letters and numbers that kind of match up with what is going on in their class. So the following grade do have a numerical impact on the student's calculated grade. So we have the letter grades that reflect level of mastery. It's kind of the universal A, B, C, or D, or E, A, B, C, D, and F. We also have a Y, which means the assignment was submitted and the assignment was not submitted, and X might be that they are excused. So if someone is having more of a challenging time, maybe they have alternative placements at that time and they just can't get to those assignments, we often excuse them. The yes or no is usually for homework, or even just we put a yes in if we haven't graded it yet, just to signify that they actually submitted it and it's a work in progress for grading. So District 99 has also set the minimum point value for any grade holding weight in the gradebook as 40%. So if a student hasn't turned anything in, you might see a Z4, which indicates that 40%. So again, just to kind of reiterate that, the Z4 grade indicates that the student did not turn in the assignment or take the assessment. So this grade does not count as a 40% in the gradebook. I'm sorry, the grade does count as a 40% in the gradebook and impacts the student's overall calculated score. So although they wouldn't receive a 0%, they still would receive that 40%. But we definitely encourage students to avoid those Z4s because they definitely add up in the long run, and it does not help with that overall grade at the end. And L4 is the score indicated that the student completed the assessment, but the student's score is less than 40%. So with that in mind, if a student just was not as successful on a test or an essay and they did receive below that 50% or 40%, that means the letter percentage is actually 40% and they're not missing anything. So there's definitely a difference between the Z4 and the L4, and hopefully that kind of is clear there.
If you have any additional questions about our policies or want to look further into our policies, we do allow students to reassess for all major projects and papers as long as they've met deadlines and go through the reassessment process. The late policy for our class is also posted on the syllabus. And if you have any questions or concerns, email is the best way to reach us. We are happy to set up a phone meeting with you, but the best way to go about that is through email.
And definitely keep encouraging the students to come online. If we are remote, we really, really appreciate when they turn their cameras on and we can see them, because we're trying to make that connection. And sometimes it's hard when you just see a little picture in the corner. So keep encouraging. We know we couldn't do without your support at home, especially during this time. So like Ms. Linnemeyer said, if you have any concerns or questions, reach out to us at any time.
So thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate, or today, and yeah. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you looking into what our class is about.